You're watching the 2024 SCAC Fall Media Days. Today, we're taking a dive into the Colorado College men's soccer program. The Tigers will once again be led as they head into the season under the guidance of head coach Scott Palguta, along with leadership from senior Curtis Hale. Coach, Curtis, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having us, Russell. We appreciate you taking the time to do these interviews each preseason.
Coach, we'll get started with you coming off such a spectacular 2023 campaign. It saw this team reach incredible heights, SCAC regular season champions, a remarkable run all the way to the NCAA quarterfinals. I'm interested from a coaching standpoint. What did you learn about going through that experience as a coach and having that success with this team? And how does that, continue to motivate you to even push this group even higher heading into the excitement of a new season?
I guess we learned we have a pretty good group, right? I can't say, I wouldn't say I was surprised by the success the team had last year. Like we did know we thought we were, had a pretty good group and a really competitive schedule. But we often wonder, hey, like, are we a year ahead of schedule here in a sense that we were pretty young, right? We were young in that we didn't have much senior influence on the team, right? Only a couple of players. Ronan McCann had a big 4-year impact. Minutes wise was playing a little bit less than he did in his early years, and then Nick Nilsson unfortunately had a bad injury that cost him his whole season, right? So we didn't have a huge impact on the field per se from our seniors. So I think that's kind of rare for a team that young to have such success in the postseason. So we did kind of wonder, like 2 years ago, it's like, would we have been primed for a run like that, maybe more so this year than last year? So again, like we learned that we had a pretty good group. And then I don't know if this was necessarily a learning experience, but something that we'll remind the guys of certainly now at the start of preseason. The margins are really fine, right? I mean, when you get to the postseason, if you're fortunate enough to be there, the difference between winning and losing on the day is so minimal, right? And I think back to our tournament run, and I do believe we deserve to be where we were at the end of the season. We earned our way to the quarterfinal, no doubt. And I wouldn't say we were lucky at any point along the way, but we weren't unlucky, and that can matter, right? These are the margins that we talk about. And so I think that's part of the learning experience from the group, saying like, hey, we went that far, no doubt. We bring back a pretty solid group of guys. They're motivated, they're eager, they've set a high bar. But you have to start this process all over again, right? And I think that's one of the key takeaways, the learning experience from last year, is that, like, there's not a whole lot of difference. We think back to that opening round game, and we're down 2 goals with 20 something minutes to go, right? Like, how differently things could have gone, and if we had lost that game, how would the tournament unfolded, right? And so I think we have an appreciation for that, and a confidence in that we earned our way in the end. But that you got to bring it every single day. And if you don't, you'll get found out quickly.
Curtis, to see that hard work, Coach talked about maybe not being so surprised because you felt like you had a good group. And as we talked about before going on, it felt like it was right there with this team. And to see that hard work pay off and to have that success, how does that build your confidence as a player and as a group? How does it continue to motivate this team? And ultimately, coming off a season like that, how excited you'd be back and ready to start a new year?
Yeah, well, I think it definitely builds our team's confidence right away. Seeing that result in the NCAA tournament definitely builds confidence, because at this point it feels like we played, some of the best teams in the country, and not just in the SCAC, but also nationwide. I think it definitely builds our confidence in that people have a lot of experience in big time games, which is something that we hadn't had in previous years. And I think kind of my freshman and sophomore years, we were kind of knocking at the door, and we kept falling short at kind of finishing in the top 3 in SCAC. So to even win the SCAC regular season championship and to push in the NCAA tournament, it gives us experience, gives us confidence, but we definitely have to be careful with that confidence, because there's still a lot more out there for us. We haven't made it past the SCAC semifinals in the tournament at the end of the year in my career yet. And that's something that we definitely want to focus on, and something that's still left on the table for us.
Coach, you talk about, the experience returning from the group from a season ago. I think looking at it, it means as 8 student athletes that started 14 or more games for you last year. So when you have a group that comes back with that type of experience on the heels of the success, Are there any challenges from your perspective as a coach to continue to motivate and push this group, or do you feel like you've got a mature group that takes last year's experience and that just simply motivates them and it makes your challenge against them a little bit easier?
Yeah, I mean, to big credit to Curtis here and Spud Ward, our other captain, the leadership of the team. I do think we have a mature group, and I don't think I'll have to remind these guys too many times about, not thinking too much about the end of the season and worrying about the process that's in front of us that allowed us, right, that we tackled really well last year, that allowed us to be so strong in November. Complacency, right, is obviously a concern for any coach. That's for a team that's had success and you have returning players. I think we got a pretty good feel for that in the spring as well, right? I mean, the non-traditional season obviously is different. We have players studying abroad. There's injuries. Like by no means are we a full strength group, but no, we started the spring really, really well, and we also had a couple weeks there that we weren't training at the level that I think we're capable of, and that consistent we had shown in the fall. And then it showed itself in the spring game, right? And I think that was a nice takeaway from the spring in a less, an environment that doesn't have quite as much pressure. So if we can maybe learn that lesson in the spring instead of the fall, I think that's wonderful. So that was something that we took away from that lengthened spring season that we had. And again, I don't think we'll need to remind these guys too many times. I think they're very mature. They're level-headed, and there is a respect there for our peers within the conference, and certainly our non-conference schedule is a monster this year.
Curtis, coming off another outstanding individual season, second straight year being named SCAC Defender of the Year, all-region player, maybe most importantly, academic first team All-American, which is an incredible accomplishment in its own right. What continues to motivate you as a soccer player, and how have you continued to grow and work to get better individually at your craft coming into the year?
Yeah, well, thank you. Definitely, I think I was, surprised at a lot of these kind of awards coming in. I think that, if you tend to focus on getting an award, if my goal is I want to get this award at the end of the year, I think that kind of, like Scott said about the team, you jump from A to Z right away, and you kind of forget about the work that you have to put in. So I think for me, my goal this year is to just grow as a leader on this team and to be the best player I can be every day in the fall. I think if I do that, if I show up for my teammates every day and I'm ready to compete, that's what continues to drive me. I love to compete. I love to go out there and play. I love soccer, and the team that I'm with is great. So just showing up every single day is my goal for this entire fall. And any way I can help out the team to, fight for a SCAC regular season title, to fight for a SCAC tournament title, and to fight through the NCAA tournament in the best way that I can, is goal number one for me.
Coach, I think one of the cool things about having such an experienced team return is from a coaching standpoint, I would imagine you have a pretty good feel of what this team is, what they do well, and maybe some areas in which you can get better. With that being said, what are some things that maybe you're really trying to stress and work on with this group in this preseason part of the season that maybe you haven't felt have necessarily been as much strength for this group, but you can kind of develop and add to what you feel is already a great part of this program going into the year?
No, I mean, this preseason will take on a very different feel from previous years because we returned so many players, right? We obviously feel like our starting point is one where we can really dive right in and start thinking more about the details and the nuances of the way we want to play. We only have 4 first-year players to integrate this year, most of the roster coming back. And so, last year with 11 first year, we were playing a lot of 11-11 just to say, hey, compete. Let's see what we've got. We want to integrate these new guys. Like, let them get after it. I think we can start fine tuning a little bit straight out of the gate, which is a nice luxury. What are the things that I think about? Well, I think soccer games are won inside the penalty boxes, right? And we know we're a team that wants to be possession based and have our fair share and then some, and try to dictate the pace of the game. Like that's kind of our stylistic approach. But in the end, right, like how you defend in your penalty box and what you do when you get in the final third, right, ultimately determine game. So I think kind of sharpening our fangs a little bit at the attacking end, and obviously tightening up as best we can defensively, and taking pride and ownership in not conceding goals, and kind of let's have fun with it. Let's look at the numbers from last year. How can we drop that goals against average, right? So I think those are key points of emphasis. And then, just speaking, very specifically tactically, I think about the way we defend from the front of the group, especially being a team that likes to be pretty aggressive here at altitude in terms of regaining possession. We've been pretty young across the board there for a couple of years now. And, coaching our attacking players who have done great scoring and producing goals for us. But, talking about shaping the game and finding the right moments to press and reading those cues, I think that's still an area we're looking to grow. And that would be, an area to certainly focus on in preseason as we look to kind of fine tune things for September 1.
Curtis, finally wrapping up with you, as you've had reflections of the great season from a year ago, and you look forward to the start of this year and the excitement of a new season. And you've had conversations with some of the other leaders on this team and your teammates about some of the goals and expectations going into 2024. What have those conversations looked like? And ultimately, what do you see as being key from a team perspective and accomplishing those heading into the year?
Yeah, well, I think it's easy to get carried away with the NCAA tournament at the start of the year. But right now, our first goal is to win our first preseason game. We play a nationally ranked Division II CSU Pueblo, who finished in the national championship 2 years in a row. That's goal number one. We need to have the best 2 weeks right now. And then after that, we need to move into our out-of-conference play where we have a big schedule, and, maintain that national ranking, maintain that that possibility for making the NCAA tournament. And then moving into SCAC play, defending that SCAC regular season title is definitely a big priority of ours. And like I talked about earlier, I still haven't made it out of the SCAC semifinals in the SCAC tournament at the end of the year. So competing for a SCAC final, I think is definitely number one goal of the year. And, if we do all those things, accomplish what we can, that NCAA tournament, we can cross that bridge when we get there. But I think it's kind of going day by day, and first starting with our preseason and having a good 2 weeks.
Finally, Coach, wrapping up with you, in our arena of sports, success can be measured in so many different ways, so many different types of metrics. But when you talk about success with your men and within your program, what is the message that you try to deliver? How do you try to ultimately define success? And this season, it looks successful in your eyes if what plays out over the course of the 2024 campaign?
Should have more time to think about that. But I think, look, if you can show up every day and give your absolute best to the team, to your teammates, whatever you're doing at that, like you're a success, right? These guys know, they probably get sick of hearing it out of my mouth. I'm a big consistency guy. I do believe that played a key role in our success last year. That group, along with some pretty good depth and some outstanding leadership from our captains here, right? That group showed up day after day after day, built a strong foundation, built the blocks and stacked those bricks to give themselves a good platform to go and be successful. They did that better than any team that I've seen in my 11 seasons at the college. And in the end, are we ever in sports entirely in control of the result? I don't know, right? Like there is such thing as bad luck. There is such thing as good luck. And certainly, you want the soccer gods on your side when the big moments come around. But some of that is out of your control. I do believe that, hard work and good habits create good luck. You put yourself in a position, but that's what we're looking for. If we can have a group of 27 young men that are very busy here, right, studying on our block plan, the amount we travel, we miss class, we log those miles, right? If we show up every single day and give our absolute best, no matter the circumstance, we're successful. And I think it'll show in the results column at the end of the year too.
Colorado College head men's soccer coach Scott Palguta, along with leadership from senior Curtis Hale. The Tigers will open up the 2024 campaign at home against Fontbonne on August 30th. Coach Curtis, thanks so much for your time today and best of luck as you head into the season.
Thanks, Russell.
Thank you.